Today's story is Manfish, the story of Jacques Cousteau, as told by Jennifer Byrne. Bubbles rising through the silence of the sea, silvery beads of breath from a man deep, deep down in a strange and shimmering ocean land of swaying plants and fantastic creatures. A manfish swimming, diving into the unknown, exploring underwater worlds no one had ever seen and no one could ever have imagined. Our story starts many, many years before, in France, when a little baby boy born under the summer sun. His parents named him Jacques. And from the very beginning, little Jacques loved water. He loved the way it felt on his hands, his face, his body, and the water made him wonder. He wondered why these ships float. Why did he float? And why did the rocks sink? One day, Jacques read a story about a man who hid underwater by breathing through a long tube. Jacques tried it and discovered it was impossible. He dreamed that someday he would be able to breathe underwater for real. At night, Jacques dreamed that he could fly, with the birds among the clouds, and his arms stretched out like wings. Jacques spent his days playing, experimenting, and creating. He wrote little books that he illustrated with his own drawings, and he was fascinated by machines. He studied blueprints, and he built models of a crane that was as tall as he was. And it even worked. Movies fascinated Jacques too. He wanted to know how they were made, how the cameras worked, and how the chemicals made the pictures appear on the film. Jacques saved his allowance penny by penny until he had enough to buy a small home movie camera. The first thing he did was take it apart and put it right back together. Then he began to film everything around him. He put his brother, his cousins, his parents, his friends into his movies. He dressed up as a villain with painted on mustache and made some very villainous movies. Jacques always was the star, the director, the writer, and even, usually, the cameraman. When Jacques finished school, he joined the French Navy. His ship sailed all over the world, and everywhere he went, he filmed what he saw. In China, he filmed men catching fish with their bare hands. They held their breath underwater for many minutes. Jacques wondered, what would that be like? Be able to be underwater for many, many minutes. Well, one day at a beach, a friend gave Jacques a pair of goggles with rubber frames and a glass to look through. Jacques wore them into the ocean, and beneath the water he was surrounded by a silvery green forest of sea plants, fish he had never seen before. Everything was silent and shimmering. It was a whole new world. And when he came up, he saw cars, people, buildings, telephone poles. And once again, he went back below, the magical underwater world. It was at that moment Jacques knew his life was changed forever. His eyes had been opened to the wonders of the sea, and they would never be closed again. Jacques and his friends Philippe and Dida began to dive together. They experimented to see how long they could stay underwater and how deep they could go. Jacques created a waterproof case for his camera to film the amazing kingdoms that he and his friends were exploring beneath the surface of the water. They made rubber suits to keep themselves warm and flippers to help them kick better. But Jacques wanted to stay down longer than just one breath at a time. He realized he would need to take more air down with him, enough air to explore the mysterious depths and the vast expanse of the ocean. to swim through the sea as he was free like a fish. He wanted to become a man-fish, and he began to work on just how to do this. And on a warm summer day, Jacques stepped into the blue Mediterranean Sea with his brand new invention. He called it the aqua lung because, well, aqua means water and lung is for your air, and so part of the body that holds the air we breathe. So we thought this was a good name for something that would help him breathe under the water. Below the surface, Jacques swam and glided as he dove. He did flips and somersaults. He stood upside down on one finger, and he laughed. Bubbles went into the sea. Jacques could breathe beneath the water now. And now he could swim across miles of ocean, his body feeling what only the scales had felt, his eyes seeing only what the fish had seen, and the water made him feel like he was flying, just like his dream when he was a boy. Jacques had done it. He had finally become a man-fish. Jacques was ready to explore the oceans of the world. He needed a boat, and he found a big old wooden navy ship called Calypso. And in a year, he turned it from a warship into an explorer's ship. Jacques, Felipe, and Didi gathered a crew, their aqua lungs, their hopes, and their dreams, and they set off to explore the inside of the sea to film a world that no one had ever seen before. Ooh, now we're going to be going down. Well, on their journeys, they dove deep into the seascape of plants, green and purpley prickly plants, red branchy plants, spongy plants, wispy feathery swaying plants, slow dancing to the rhythms of the sea. They discovered plants that could feed you, plants that could poison you, plants that looked like fish, and fish that looked like plants. They swam with giant whales, hitched rides on sea turtles, and made friends with porpoises with shining eyes and smiling faces. They filmed fierce and frightening sharks, so strange and dangerous, Jacques and his crew had to build cages, not for the sharks, but for themselves, so that they could make their movies without being eaten. Oh my goodness, going even farther down. Now their cameras captured camouflaged scorpionfish, ugly as toads with poisonous spines. They found dorados, brilliant shining fish that glowed the colors of emeralds, sapphires, and rubies. Checkerboard fish with red and white checks from head to tail. And deep down they discovered a kingdom of giant rays, fish that fly through the water with wings that swim. They came face to face with a fish as big as a truck, with long fangs, lips like giant tires, and huge saucer eyes. They called it a truckfish. On the bottom they found pink ghost crabs with eyes on long stalks buried so deep in the sand that they looked like a garden of eyes. And the flutefish, with a head like a horse and bodies the shape of tubes sticking out of the rocky openings, like pencils in a cup. Oh my goodness. Everywhere Calypso went, Jacques and his crews made films of what they saw, films that played in movie theaters, films that played on TV. Millions of people from all over the world discovered the wonders of the sea for the very first time with Jacques, Felipe, and Didi, and their adventurous crew. After Jacques spent most of his life making movies about the sea, he saw something happening. Something shocking. Plants that used to be alive and healthy were being poisoned. Fish were sick and dying. Jacques saw that people without realizing it, we're slowly killing the sea, its creatures. And they were doing this by dumping garbage and poisonous chemicals into the ocean he loved so much. Jacques knew what he had to do. He had to make movies, movies to warn people, movies to save the sea. Jacques also spoke to presidents, to kings and queens, to people all over the earth, asking them, help save our planet, help save our oceans. He spoke to children. Jacques dreamed that someday it would be you, exploring the worlds never seen, never imagined. Whole new worlds, silent and shimmering, worlds that are now yours to discover, to care for.